Welcome. Let's fall asleep with the theories around the end of the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs reigned for well over 150 million years. Their world stretched across every continent. Their footsteps pressed into the mud of forests, plains, and coastlines. When they vanished, they left no witness behind, only the silent record of stone and bone. For humans, discovering these remains much later, the disappearance of such giants posed a puzzle that demanded explanation. At first, people had no idea what they were finding. A claw here, a tooth there, a fragment of bone larger than any known animal. In China, the strange shapes were called dragon bones and were ground into medicine. In Europe, they were sometimes thought to be relics of mythical beasts, or even the remains of giants mentioned in old stories. It was not until the 18th and early 19th centuries that naturalists began to realize that these fossils were the traces of creatures unlike anything alive today. This recognition brought with it an uncomfortable truth. Some animals had existed in the past, yet no longer walked the earth. Extinction, once considered impossible in a world many thought was fixed and eternal, became an undeniable fact. The question followed naturally. What had caused such creatures to vanish? One of the first great thinkers to tackle this question was Georges Cuvier in the early 1800s. Looking at fossilized elephants and other prehistoric animals, he argued that extinction must have been the result of catastrophic events. Vast floods, sudden upheavals, or other disasters might have swept away entire species in one blow. This view, known as catastrophism, painted Earth's history as a series of violent endings, each reshaping the living world. But soon, another perspective rose in opposition. Charles Lyell, a geologist, suggested instead that Earth's processes were slow, steady, and continuous. Erosion, sedimentation, and climate shifts acted gradually over immense spans of time. This view, called uniformitarianism, influenced Charles Darwin, who applied the same reasoning to biology. Species, Darwin argued, changed gradually too, competing, adapting, and sometimes disappearing when they could no longer survive in shifting environments. By the mid-19th century, these competing views, catastrophes versus gradual change, framed much of the debate. The dinosaurs' extinction, when it was finally recognized as a real event, would be seen through the same lens. Early theories were often imaginative, if not entirely convincing. Some suggested that dinosaurs grew so large they simply collapsed under their own weight. Others imagined that mammals, newly emerging at the time, may have eaten dinosaur eggs so effectively that the giants could no longer reproduce. Still others believed disease might have swept through populations, or that dinosaurs were simply evolutionary failures, reptiles gone astray, who could not keep pace with nature's demands. Climate played a central role in many early ideas. As the fossil record expanded, scientists noticed differences between layers of rock and inferred that Earth's climate had not always been the same. Perhaps, they thought, a gradual cooling had weakened the dinosaurs, leaving them vulnerable. Others argued for the opposite, that warming had dried out ecosystems, making life unsustainable. By the early 20th century, as more fossils were uncovered in North America, Europe, and later Asia, the question of extinction was never far from mind. Yet no single theory seemed definitive. Paleontologists often leaned toward slow, drawn-out causes, shifting continents, changing sea levels, long-term climate instability. Dinosaurs, it was thought, had simply failed to adapt to a new world. By the 1950s and 1960s, even as knowledge of dinosaurs themselves transformed, from sluggish swamp dwellers to active dynamic animals, extinction theories remained frustratingly vague. Some scientists suggested volcanic eruptions had filled the air with ash, changing the climate. Others pointed to the gradual decline in dinosaur diversity observed in the fossil record, interpreting it as a long slide into oblivion rather than a sudden collapse. It is important to remember, in this era, Earth's deep time processes were only just being understood. Plate tectonics, the very theory that explained continental drift, was still gaining acceptance in the 1960s. Without that framework, ideas about global change were limited. It would take a discovery far outside paleontology, in the chemistry of ancient sediments, to shift the debate entirely. And so, for well over a century, the extinction of the dinosaurs was a mystery. Dozens of theories coexisted, none entirely convincing, none able to explain the sudden absence of such dominant creatures. The stage was set for a revelation that would transform not only paleontology, but the way we understood Earth's history itself. The puzzle of the dinosaurs' end might have remained an unsolved mystery, drifting between explanations of climate, competition, and gradual decline. But in the late 1970s, a discovery shifted everything. It began, not with a paleontologist searching for fossils, but with a geologist and his father studying the chemistry of rocks. Luis Alvarez, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, and his son Walter Alvarez, a geologist, were examining a thin layer of clay in Italy. This layer lay precisely at the boundary between two geological periods: the Cretaceous, when dinosaurs thrived, and the Paleogene, the age that followed when they were gone. This thin line of clay represented the exact moment in Earth's history when the extinction had occurred. It was razor-sharp in the record, as if the world before and the world after had been separated by the stroke of a knife. Curious about its origin, the Alvarezes measured its chemical composition. What they found astonished them. The clay was enriched with an element called iridium, a metal rare on Earth's surface, but far more common in meteorites. The concentration was not just slightly elevated, it was many times higher than normal background levels. To the Alvarezes, this suggested something extraordinary. They proposed that 66 million years ago, a giant asteroid or comet had struck the Earth, scattering iridium-rich dust around the globe. That dust settled into sediments, creating the thin layer now known as the KPG boundary. The impact, they argued, would have unleashed unimaginable destruction. A blast equal to billions of atomic bombs, global firestorms, massive shockwaves, and a nuclear winter effect as soot and dust blocked sunlight. Photosynthesis would have collapsed, ecosystems unraveling in weeks. For dinosaurs, and many other creatures, it would have been the end. The idea was radical. Until then, most scientists believed in gradual change, not sudden catastrophe. The asteroid hypothesis sounded to many like a return to Cuvier's catastrophism, a dramatic ending caused by forces outside Earth itself. Many paleontologists resisted the idea. Could one single event really wipe out such a vast and diverse group as the dinosaurs, scattered across every continent? Wasn't it more likely that they had simply declined slowly, nudged into extinction by changing environments and competition? But the Alvarezes had evidence, and soon other scientists joined the search. Across the world, in Denmark, in New Zealand, in Spain, in America's western plains, geologists found the same iridium-rich layer. It was a global fingerprint of something extraordinary. Further signs appeared. Shocked quartz, minerals whose internal structures bore the scars of intense, sudden pressure, the kind produced by massive impacts. Tiny glass-like droplets called microtectites were also discovered, formed when rock was vaporized by extreme heat and rained back down as molten droplets. Still, the theory faced resistance. Many paleontologists pointed out that the fossil record seemed to show a gradual decline in dinosaur diversity before the boundary. Perhaps the asteroid was not the sole cause, but just the final blow to animals already struggling. Others argued that the extinction seemed too selective. Why had birds survived, or crocodiles, or turtles, if the catastrophe was so total? During the 1980s, the debate grew fierce. On one side stood those convinced by the impact evidence. On the other, those who favored more gradual causes, especially volcanism. In India, geologists had long known of vast regions of ancient lava flows, known as the Deccan Traps. These enormous volcanic eruptions had occurred near the end of the Cretaceous. Layer upon layer of basalt rock stretched for hundreds of thousands of square kilometers, evidence of eruptions that had lasted for hundreds of thousands of years. The scale was almost unimaginable. Rivers of lava, clouds of volcanic gas, and ash that could have changed the chemistry of the oceans and the climate of the atmosphere. Volcanoes release carbon dioxide, which warms the planet, and sulfur dioxide, which cools it by reflecting sunlight. Together, these gases could have produced swings between greenhouse warming and acid rain-driven cooling. In the oceans, volcanic activity may have triggered widespread anoxia, a depletion of oxygen in seawater, devastating marine life. To many, this seemed a more reasonable explanation than a single asteroid. The dinosaurs, under this view, had been stressed for a long time by volcanic winters, unstable climates, poisoned air, and collapsing food chains. The asteroid, if it happened at all, wasn't the cause but just a coincidence, or perhaps a minor contributing factor. The debate was not only about evidence, but about philosophy. Catastrophism versus gradualism, the tension that had shaped geology since Cuvier and Lyell, played out again. Was Earth's history shaped by sudden disasters or by steady, relentless processes? Could one day of catastrophe outweigh hundreds of thousands of years of slow change? In the 1980s, the question hung unresolved. Both sides gathered evidence. Fossils, geochemistry, and geophysics all came into play. Yet one thing was clear. Something extraordinary had occurred at the end of the Cretaceous. The Earth had been scarred, ecosystems collapsed, and nearly 75% of species had vanished. But the precise cause, asteroid or volcanism, sudden or gradual, remained unsettled. And so the mystery deepened. Theories multiplied, debates sharpened, and paleontology found itself caught in one of its greatest controversies. What the field needed was not more argument, but a decisive piece of evidence, something that could prove, beyond doubt, whether the asteroid had indeed struck and whether it could have been so devastating. That decisive proof lay hidden, deep beneath the Earth, waiting for discovery. The debate over the dinosaurs' extinction raged for more than a decade. The asteroid hypothesis had powerful evidence: iridium, shocked quartz, microtectites, but volcanism too had compelling weight. The Deccan Traps, immense and long-lived, seemed capable of changing climate on their own. Paleontologists and geologists argued at conferences, in journals, and sometimes even in the press. Was it catastrophe? Or was it slow suffocation by fire and smoke? Then, in the early 1990s, the search for a decisive answer finally bore fruit. In the 1970s, petroleum geologists working off the coast of Mexico had noticed something odd on their seismic surveys: a buried circular structure beneath the Yucatan Peninsula. At the time, it was little more than a curiosity, an anomaly in the data. But in 1991, scientists examining the region realized what it was: a vast crater over 180 kilometers wide, hidden beneath younger sediments. Its age matched the boundary between the Cretaceous and Paleogene. The crater was named Chicxulub after a nearby town. To those who supported the asteroid hypothesis, it was the long-sought smoking gun. At last, there was a physical scar on Earth itself, perfectly timed to the extinction. The impact had not been a modest event. It was colossal, one of the largest known strikes in Earth's history. A rock roughly 10 kilometers across had slammed into shallow seas, releasing energy greater than all the nuclear weapons on Earth combined. Computer simulations and geological evidence together painted a chilling picture. The impact blasted a crater more than 30 kilometers deep, throwing molten rock and vaporized seawater high into the atmosphere. Superheated ejecta rained back down, igniting global wildfires. Soot and aerosols filled the sky. Within hours, much of the planet was cloaked in darkness. For weeks to months, sunlight was blocked. Photosynthesis faltered. Plants died. Herbivores starved. Carnivores followed. The ocean fared no better. Plankton, the base of marine food chains, collapsed under the absence of sunlight. Acid rain, triggered by vaporized sulfur-rich rocks, poured into seas and lakes. The chain reaction was swift, merciless, and global. 75% of all species perished. Dinosaurs, pterosaurs, ammonites, giant marine reptiles, all gone. But even as the Chicxulub crater seemed to settle the question, debate lingered. Could the asteroid alone explain everything? Some argued that the fossil record showed signs of stress even before the impact, especially in marine life. The Deccan Traps, with eruptions spanning hundreds of thousands of years, might have destabilized ecosystems, making them vulnerable to collapse. Perhaps it was not asteroid or volcano, but asteroid and volcano, a 1-2 punch. Modern evidence has refined this view. Advances in dating techniques suggest the peak of Deccan volcanism may indeed have overlapped closely with the time of the impact. Volcanic gases could have stressed climates, altered habitats, and pushed ecosystems toward the edge. Then came the asteroid, striking with such force that recovery became impossible. Together, the two forces created not just extinction, but a near reset of the biosphere. Yet extinction was not absolute. Some creatures endured. Crocodiles, already adapted to slow metabolisms and aquatic shelters, survived. Small mammals, burrowing and diverse in diet, persisted. Turtles, amphibians, and many fish made it through. Most remarkably, a lineage of small feathered theropods, close cousins of raptors, endured and evolved. We call them birds. This selectivity, who lived and who died, continues to fascinate scientists. It suggests survival was not simply luck, but a matter of biology and ecology. Size mattered. Smaller animals needed less food and could hide. Diet mattered. Generalists fared better than specialists. Flexibility and resilience made the difference. For the dinosaurs, rulers of the land for millions of years, their very success may have been their undoing. Large, specialized, dependent on abundant vegetation, they had little room to adapt when the skies darkened and the plants withered. The asteroid, then, was not just an ending. It was also a beginning. By sweeping away the dominant reptiles of the land, it opened ecological space for mammals to rise. Over millions of years, mammals expanded, diversified, and eventually produced primates, and from them, humans. In this sense, the destruction of the dinosaurs shaped the path that would eventually lead to us sitting here, wondering about their fate. The story of extinction is also the story of science itself. In the 18th century, people could not even conceive that extinction was real. By the 19th, catastrophes had been replaced by gradualism. By the 20th, a radical new idea, A cosmic impact brought catastrophe back, but now armed with evidence. Today, the consensus blends both views: gradual pressures of volcanism and climate, climaxed by sudden catastrophe from the skies. Science, like life itself, adapts, shifts, and grows. And what of Chicxulub today? Beneath the quiet forests and towns of Yucatan, the crater remains buried, a scar invisible from the surface but clear in the data. Drilling projects have revealed its structure. Rings of rock uplifted by the force of the blast, melted layers frozen in place. It is a reminder that Earth is not isolated, that cosmic chance can alter the course of life in a geological instant. As we reflect on the end of the dinosaurs, there is both sadness and wonder. Sadness for the beauty of those vanished creatures who roamed in such variety and splendor, only to be swept away in a heartbeat. Wonder for the resilience of life, which endured, adapted, and continued. And wonder, too, at the human mind, which has pieced together this story from bones, rocks, chemistry, and craters, transforming silence into knowledge. The extinction of the dinosaurs is not just about death. It is about transformation. It is about endings that make way for beginnings. And it is about our place in the story. Small mammals who inherited a world remade by fire, darkness, and chance. The last roar of the dinosaurs wasn't heard by any ear, yet in the quiet of the night, when we imagine their world and its sudden end, we give them voice again. And in doing so, we remember that life is fragile, the earth dynamic, and the universe vast. What happened to them could one day happen to us. Theirs is not just history, it is also a warning. And so we close the mystery, not with a simple answer, but with a layered understanding: volcanism and climate, asteroid and impact, survival and loss. The definitive theory today is that a cosmic visitor delivered the fatal blow. But behind that conclusion lies centuries of wonder, argument, discovery, and imagination. The story of extinction is not only about the dinosaurs, it is about us, the storytellers, piecing together the past and finding meaning in its echoes. As our story closes, let us linger a while in the quiet aftermath. The dinosaurs are gone, the asteroid has fallen, the debates of science have played out. But their presence has not vanished entirely. Fossils sleep beneath stone, their shapes whispering of creatures once alive. The earth remembers them, and in remembering, so do we. Imagine standing in a desert where the sun is low and the rocks are old. Beneath your feet lie the remains of creatures that once shook the ground. Every grain of sand may once have brushed against scales or bones. The past is not gone. It is folded into the earth we walk upon. Science, too, is a kind of excavation. Each new fossil, each chemical trace, each crater mapped beneath the soil. They are pieces of a story we build slowly, layer by layer. For centuries, humans imagined monsters, dragons, beasts of legend. Today, we know them as dinosaurs, not myths, but real beings of deep time. And yet, even with science, there is still something mythical about them. Their size, their diversity, their sudden ending, they belong as much to imagination as to geology. When we look at birds in the sky, we are not truly separated from the dinosaurs. A robin on a branch, an eagle gliding across the horizon, even the pigeon in the city square. Each is a quiet reminder that dinosaurs still live among us. Their song is softer than a roar, their bodies lighter, their lives adapted to a different world. But they are heirs to that ancient dynasty. To listen to a bird at dawn is to hear an echo of the Mesozoic. There is comfort in this. Extinction is not only an ending, it is also transformation. The dinosaurs are gone, Yet they are also here, in feathers, in wings, in song. Life continues, reshaped, renewed. And so as you rest now, think of that vast timeline. From the Triassic dawn, through the Jurassic forests, into the Cretaceous plains, life thrived, adapted, and eventually yielded to change. The asteroid fell, the world was remade, and from the ashes came new forms. That story of resilience belongs not only to them, but to all of life, including us. Let your thoughts drift, as if you are walking through a Cretaceous forest, quiet, calm, surrounded by ferns and giant trees. Somewhere, a hadrosaur calls, its sound rolling like thunder in the distance. Above, a pterosaur glides, its wings stretched wide against the fading light. You are there, just a guest, walking slowly, breathing in the ancient air. The world is alive, full of wonder. And as the sun sets, the scene dissolves. Darkness falls. The great reptiles vanish into shadow. The forest quiets. Only memory remains. Breathe deeply and let the story rest. The dinosaurs sleep now, and so can you.